The planet Zena was often called the Emerald Jewel of the galaxy. It was a world of breathtaking beauty, where nature and technology coexisted in perfect harmony. The cities of Zena floated above vast, shimmering forests, connected by networks of energy bridges and suspended gardens. The Zynthians, an all-female alien race, were as graceful and elegant as their world. They were known not only for their stunning beauty, but also for their advanced technology, which harnessed the planet's unique energy crystals. However, the peace that had reigned on Zena for centuries was abruptly shattered. The Gargon Empire, a warlike and brutal species, had long coveted Zena's energy resources. Led by the fearsome General Tython, they launched a surprise invasion, hoping to seize control of the planet before the Galactic Union could intervene. The Zynthians, though technologically advanced, were a peaceful people with little experience in warfare. Their defenses were strong, but designed more for deterrence than outright combat. When the Gargon forces descended upon Zena, the Zynthians were caught off guard. Their cities, once serene and beautiful, became battlegrounds. Energy shields flickered and failed under the relentless assault, and the floating cities began to crumble. The Galactic Union, an alliance of various species dedicated to maintaining peace and stability across the galaxy, quickly mobilized to aid Zena. Among the task force was Sergeant Jack Harper, a seasoned human soldier known for his bravery and tactical acumen. Harper had seen his fair share of battles, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of Zena under siege. Harper's mission was clear: extract the Zynthian leadership from the capital city before it fell to the Gargon forces. The leaders, 3 women who were crucial to the Zynthian survival, were holed up in the High Council Tower, the heart of Zena's government. Harper's team, a diverse group of soldiers from different species, was tasked with infiltrating the city, locating the leaders, and bringing them to safety. The mission was more difficult than anyone had anticipated. The Gargon had not only overrun the city, but had also deployed jamming devices that disrupted communications, making it nearly impossible for the Galactic Union forces to coordinate. Harper and his team had to move quickly and quietly through the devastated streets, avoiding Gargon patrols and bypassing barricades. As they neared the High Council Tower, disaster struck. A Gargon patrol ambushed Harper's team, and in the ensuing firefight, most of his squad was wiped out. Harper fought with the ferocity of a cornered animal, taking down several Gargon soldiers before being forced to retreat. Alone and with no backup, Harper knew the odds were against him, but he also knew that if he didn't complete the mission, the Zynthian leadership would be captured or killed, and with them, any hope of resistance. Determined not to fail, Harper made his way to the High Council Tower. The once grand building was now in ruins, its walls scorched and crumbling. He found the Zynthian leaders, Elia, Myra, and Elia, barricaded in a secure chamber, surrounded by debris and the bodies of their fallen guards. The women, though obviously shaken, carried themselves with a regal dignity that belied the chaos around them. Sergeant Jack Harper, Galactic Union. Harper introduced himself, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. "I'm here to get you out." The Zynthians looked at him with a mix of surprise and skepticism. They had been told stories about humans, primitive, emotional beings prone to violence. Yet here was a human, standing alone amidst the wreckage, offering them salvation. Leah, the leader and eldest of the trio, stepped forward. Her silver hair, once perfectly styled, was now matted with dust, but her violet eyes were clear and sharp. "You're alone," she observed, her tone more curious than accusatory. Harper nodded. "My team didn't make it, but I'm still here and I'm getting you out." Myra, a scientist known for her brilliance and often perceived as aloof, studied Harper intently. "Why would a human risk his life for us? What do you have to gain?" Harper's gaze didn't waver. "Because it's my job, and because if we don't get you out, there won't be anything left of this planet but ashes." Elia, the youngest but a skilled warrior in the ancient Zynthian martial arts, clenched her fists. "We won't go down without a fight," she said, her voice filled with resolve. Harper admired her spirit but knew they were outmatched. "There's no need to go down at all. Follow me, and I'll get you to the extraction point. We don't have much time." The Zynthians hesitated, their pride and distrust warring with their instinct for survival. But Leah, sensing the urgency in Harper's voice, made the decision. "We will trust you, Sergeant Harper. Lead the way." Harper led them out of the tower, navigating through the ruins of the city. The journey was perilous. They had to avoid Gargon patrols and navigate through collapsing structures. Harper's military training and combat experience were evident in the way he moved, anticipating danger and guiding the Zynthians with calm efficiency. The Zynthians, despite their initial doubts, began to rely on Harper's expertise. Leah kept a close eye on their surroundings, her strategic mind working in tandem with Harper's. Myra, though not trained for combat, used her scientific knowledge to disable Gargon technology they encountered along the way. Elia, ever vigilant, stood ready to defend the group, though she quickly realized that Harper's combat skills were far beyond what she had expected from a human. As they made their way through the city, Harper noticed how the Zynthians interacted with each other. Despite the dire situation, they communicated with an unspoken understanding, a testament to their deep bond and shared history. Harper couldn't help but feel a growing respect for them, not just as leaders, but as individuals who were willing to fight for their people. After what felt like hours of tense, silent movement, they reached the edge of the city. The extraction point was only a few miles away, deep within the Zenan wilderness. But before they could celebrate, a Gargon patrol spotted them. With no choice but to fight, Harper and Elia sprang into action. Harper's movements were swift and precise, his blaster cutting down Gargon soldiers with deadly accuracy. Elia, fighting alongside him, was impressed by his combat prowess. Despite her initial skepticism, she realized that Harper was no ordinary human. He moved with the grace of a seasoned warrior, his instincts sharp and his resolve unbreakable. The battle was short but intense. When the last Gargon soldier fell, Harper quickly assessed their situation. They had been lucky this time, but more Gargon forces would soon be on their trail. They needed to move fast. As they entered the wilderness, the Zynthians found themselves relying more and more on Harper. The dense forest was filled with dangers, both natural and artificial, and Harper's survival skills proved invaluable. He led them through treacherous terrain, avoiding Gargon traps and navigating around deadly wildlife. The Zynthians, who had initially seen Harper as little more than brute force, began to see him in a new light. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a protector, someone who had risked everything to save them. This realization began to shift their perception of humans, challenging the prejudices they had long held. As night fell, they found shelter in a hidden cave. Exhausted but alive, they settled down for a brief rest. Harper kept watch, his eyes scanning the darkness for any signs of danger. Leah, unable to sleep, approached him. "Sergeant Harper," she said softly, her voice filled with a mix of gratitude and curiosity. "Why do you fight so hard for us? You could have left us behind when your team fell, but you didn't." Harper glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "Because it's the right thing to do, and because if we don't stand together, we'll all fall apart." Leah nodded, her respect for the human growing. "We've misjudged your kind, it seems." Harper didn't respond immediately, but when he did, his voice was quiet. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do next." Leah returned to the others, her mind swirling with thoughts of what Harper had said. The journey to trust had begun, but it was clear to her that it was not just about survival anymore. It was about understanding, about breaking down the barriers between them and forging something new. As they huddled together in the darkness, the Zynthians knew that their fate was now tied to this human soldier, and for the first time since the invasion began, they felt a glimmer of hope. This expanded chapter introduces more depth to the characters, highlighting the growing bond between Harper and the Zynthians, and sets the stage for the challenges they will face together. The Zenan wilderness was a world of wonder and danger, a vast expanse of ancient forests, crystalline rivers, and towering mountains that seemed to scrape the sky. The The bioluminescent flora cast a soft, ethereal glow in the dim light of the planet's twin moons, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that was both beautiful and eerie. Yet beneath this tranquil facade lay countless perils. Predatory creatures that hunted in packs, toxic plants that could paralyze with a single touch, and the ever-present threat of Gargon patrols combing the area. Sergeant Jack Harper and the three Zynthian leaders, Elia, Myra, and Elia, moved cautiously through this hazardous terrain. Harper led the way, his senses honed by years of combat experience. Every rustle of leaves and every distant howl made him tense, ready to react at a moment's notice. The Zynthians followed closely, their trust in him growing with each step. As they ventured deeper into the wilderness, the initial tension between them began to ease. The Zynthians had always viewed humans with a mixture of disdain and caution, considering them impulsive and inferior. But Harper was proving to be anything but. His stoic determination, tactical mind, and selfless protection of their group were slowly chipping away at their preconceived notions. One evening, as they stopped to rest near a small, crystal-clear stream, Myra, the scientist, approached Harper. She had been quietly observing him since they left the city, her analytical mind struggling to reconcile the human before her with the crude image she had always held of his species. "You're not what I expected, Sergeant," Myra said, her tone neutral, though her eyes were full of curiosity. Harper, who was busy scanning the perimeter, looked up. "What did you expect?" "Someone less composed," Myra admitted, choosing her words carefully. "Humans are known for their emotions, their unpredictability. Yet you've been nothing but focused and level-headed, even under extreme stress." Harper shrugged slightly. "Emotions are part of who we are, but in situations like this, you learn to control them. Staying focused keeps us alive." Myra nodded, though her curiosity was not yet satisfied. "And why do you do it? Risk your life for others? I mean, what drives you?" Harper paused for a moment, considering her question. "It's not just about following orders or doing a job. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. If I can make a difference, save even one life, it's worth it." Myra was taken aback by the simplicity and sincerity of his answer. She had always assumed that humans were driven by selfish desires, but here was one whose motivations were anything but. The scientist in her was intrigued, but more than that, she felt a growing respect for this human who had defied her expectations. As they continued their journey, the Zynthians began to open up to Harper. Elia, the leader, often walked beside him, discussing strategy and seeking his input on their next moves. She found in him a kindred spirit, a leader who, like her, bore the weight of responsibility for the lives of others. They shared stories of battles fought and lost, of the burdens that came with command. Elia, the warrior, also found herself reassessing her initial judgment. She had always prided herself on her combat skills, honed through years of rigorous training in the ancient Zynthian martial arts. At first, she had been skeptical of Harper's abilities, believing him to be no match for her prowess. But after seeing him in action, her skepticism had turned to admiration. One night, as they camped in a sheltered grove, Elia challenged Harper to a friendly sparring match. The tension between them had eased, replaced by mutual respect, and she was curious to test her skills against his. "Let's see what you're really made of, Sergeant," Elia said with a hint of a smile as she took a defensive stance. Harper grinned, sensing the playful challenge. "Just don't hold back on my account." The two circled each other, their movements fluid and precise. Elia struck first, her blows quick and calculated. But Harper was ready. He parried her attacks with ease, his reflexes sharp from years of training. The sparring match was intense but controlled, a dance of skill and strategy. Harper's style was practical and efficient, honed by countless battles, while Elia's was more graceful, a testament to her mastery of Zynthian martial arts. As they exchanged blows, a crowd of sorts gathered. Elia and Myra watched with interest, the tension of the past days momentarily forgotten. The sparring match, though serious, was a welcome distraction from the grim reality of their situation. Finally, after several minutes of back and forth, Elia managed to land a light tap on Harper's side, signaling the end of the match. They both stepped back, breathing heavily but smiling. "You're good, Sergeant," Elia said, clearly impressed. "For a human," Harper chuckled, wiping the sweat from his brow. "You're not so bad yourself. I can see why your people made you a warrior." Elia's respect for Harper grew that night. He had proven himself not just as a soldier, but as a warrior who could stand toe-to-toe with the best of the Zynthians. The barriers between them were slowly crumbling, replaced by camaraderie and mutual respect. But it wasn't just Harper who was changing. The Zynthians, too, were beginning to see the value in working together, in relying on someone outside their own species. Leah, ever the diplomat, recognized that their survival depended not just on Harper's skills, but on their ability to adapt and learn from him as he was learning from them. The journey through the wilderness was long and arduous. They faced numerous challenges: ambushes by Gargon patrols, attacks from wild creatures, and the treacherous terrain itself. But with each trial, their bond grew stronger. Harper's tactical knowledge and combat skills complemented the Zynthians' technological prowess and unique abilities. They became a cohesive unit, each member contributing to the group's survival. As they approached the final stretch of their journey, the trust between Harper and the Zynthians had solidified. No longer were they simply allies thrown together by circumstance. They had become a team, united by a common goal and a shared understanding. One evening, as they camped at the base of a towering cliff, Leah gathered the group around the fire. The flames flickered, casting shadows on their tired faces. The journey had taken its toll, but they were close to their destination, the extraction point where a Galactic Union ship awaited them. "We're almost there," Leah said, her voice steady. "But the hardest part is still ahead of us. The Gargon won't give up easily, and we'll need to be ready for anything." Harper nodded in agreement. "We've made it this far by working together. If we stick to the plan, watch each other's backs, we'll make it out of here." Myra, who had grown increasingly fond of Harper, added, "And when this is over, we need to rethink everything we thought we knew about humans. You've shown us that there's more to your kind than we ever imagined." Elia, ever the warrior, looked at Harper with newfound respect. "You've earned our trust, Harper. Whatever happens next, we face it together." Harper looked at the three Zynthians, feeling a sense of pride and responsibility. He had started this journey as a soldier on a mission, but now he was something more: a protector, a leader, and unexpectedly, a friend to these remarkable women. The night passed with little sleep, each of them lost in their thoughts, knowing that the final challenge awaited them. But there was a quiet confidence among them, born from the trust they had built. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting the wilderness in golden light, Harper and the Zynthians prepared to face the final leg of their journey. The extraction point was within reach, but so too was the Gargon threat. They had come this far together, and they knew that only together would they survive what was to come. In that moment, as they stood side by side, they were no longer just a human and three alien women. They were a team bound by trust, respect, and a shared determination to overcome the odds. The journey to trust was complete, but the battle for survival was just beginning. This expanded chapter delves deeper into the developing relationships between Harper and the Zynthians, showing how their mutual respect and understanding grow as they face challenges together. It sets the stage for the final confrontation in the following chapters. The dense Xenan wilderness began to thin as they approached the extraction point, revealing a wide clearing surrounded by towering cliffs. The clearing was where the Galactic Union ship was supposed to land, their ticket off this embattled planet. But as Sergeant Jack Harper, Leah, Myra, and Elia emerged from the trees, a chilling realization struck them. Something was wrong. The clearing was eerily silent, with no sign of the Galactic Union ship, no soldiers, only the remnants of a fierce battle. The ground was scorched, with the charred remains of downed drones and the bodies of fallen soldiers scattered across the terrain. Smoke lingered in the air, and the once lush vegetation had been trampled and burned into chaos. Harper's heart sank. The extraction team had been compromised. The Gargon forces had anticipated their arrival, setting up an ambush that had wiped out the Union's support. He clenched his fists, the weight of the situation settling heavily on his shoulders. They were alone, outnumbered, and surrounded by enemies with no backup in sight. "We need to move now," Harper said urgently, scanning the area for any signs of remaining threats. "This place is compromised." Elia, ever the leader, quickly assessed the situation alongside him. If the extraction team was ambushed, the Gargons are likely still nearby. They'll be back to search for survivors. Elia, her hand gripping the hilt of her energy blade, nodded. "Then we make our stand here. We're not running any further." Myra, the scientist, looked at the devastation around them, her mind racing. "We need to fortify our position. Use whatever resources we can find. Harper, you know combat. Tell us what to do." Harper didn't hesitate. Despite the dire situation, his mind was already working through their options. "We need to create a defensible position, something that will buy us time. We can use the wreckage for cover, set traps, and bottleneck them when they come. Myra, see if you can salvage anything from the tech left behind. Drones, explosives, anything we can repurpose. Elia, you and I will set up the perimeter. Elia, I need you to coordinate and keep watch for any movement." The Zynthians nodded, their earlier skepticism of Harper long gone. He had proven himself time and again, and now they trusted him with their lives. As they moved quickly to fortify their position, Harper and Elia worked in tandem, placing barriers and creating choke points with the debris scattered across the clearing. Myra's sharp intellect was put to use as she scavenged the wreckage, managing to reactivate a few damaged drones and rig them to explode on command. Elia, using her strategic mind, positioned herself where she could see the widest area, ready to alert the others at the first sign of danger. The minutes stretched into an hour, and the tension was palpable. Every rustle in the underbrush, every distant sound put them on edge, but Harper kept them focused, his calm demeanor in the face of overwhelming odds giving the Zynthians the confidence to push through their fear. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the clearing, Elia spotted movement on the far side. "Harper," she whispered urgently. "They're coming." Harper quickly moved to her side, peering through a pair of binoculars in the fading light. He could see the Gargon soldiers, dozens of them, advancing cautiously through the trees, their hulking forms armed to the teeth, their eyes glowing with the promise of violence. At their center, he spotted the unmistakable figure of General Tython, the ruthless leader of the Gargon forces, marching confidently toward them. "We need to be ready," Harper said, his heart racing. "They'll be looking for us. Elia, Myra, get into position. Elia, stay with me. We'll take them by surprise." With the Zynthians in their places, Harper felt a surge of determination. This was it, the moment they had prepared for. As the Gargon soldiers entered the clearing, he could hear the crunch of leaves and the low, guttural growls of their voices. Harper signaled, and in an instant, the clearing erupted into chaos. Elia leaped from her hiding spot, her energy blade glowing fiercely as she charged at the nearest Gargon. Myra unleashed the first of the improvised explosive drones, sending a shockwave through the ranks of the enemy. "Fight! Fight for your lives!" Harper shouted, rallying the Zynthians as he took cover, firing at the Gargon soldiers. The battle was fierce and unforgiving. Harper moved fluidly through the chaos, using every ounce of training he had to protect his new allies. Elia fought like a whirlwind, her blade a blur as she dispatched foes left and right. Myra, though less experienced in combat, proved resourceful, using her tech skills to disable enemy weapons and shield her teammates from incoming fire. Elia coordinated their efforts, directing them to counter the Gargon assault effectively. But as the fight raged on, Harper's heart sank as he watched the Gargon soldiers pour into the clearing. They were outnumbered and outgunned. It became clear that they wouldn't be able to hold the line much longer. Just when despair began to creep into his mind, a familiar sound broke through the din of battle. the unmistakable hum of engines and the bright flash of a ship descending from the sky. The Union ship, Myra shouted, pointing towards the sky. "Keep fighting. We'll hold them off," Harper yelled, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He could see the ship was preparing for a landing, and with it came their chance of escape. But General Targo wasn't finished yet. With a furious roar, he rallied his troops and charged at them, his eyes locked on Harper. "Finish them," he bellowed, determination radiating from him. With a final push, Harper and the Zynthians rallied together, fighting back with everything they had. The sound of clashing metal, energy blasts, and desperate cries filled the air, but they held firm, united in their resolve. As the Union ship landed, a squad of soldiers poured out, joining the fray. Relief washed over Harper as he realized they were no longer alone. Together, they fought against the Gargon forces, turning the tide of battle. In the midst of the chaos, Harper found himself face to face with General Targo. The two men locked eyes, and in that moment, everything else faded away. With a fierce determination, they clashed, the sounds of battle surrounding them. "You think you can save your precious Zynthians?" Targo sneered, his blade clashing against Harper's. "I won't let you take them," Harper shouted back, his resolve unyielding. The fight was brutal, each man pushing the other to their limits. But Harper had something Targo lacked, the trust and loyalty of his comrades. Just as Targo prepared to deliver a fatal blow, Elia struck from behind, her energy blade piercing through the Gargon leader's defenses. The general fell to the ground, his eyes wide with disbelief, and with him, the spirit of the Gargon forces began to waver. With their leader down, the remaining soldiers hesitated, unsure of their next move. "Now, push them back," Elia shouted, and the united front of the Zynthians and the Galactic Union forces surged forward, forcing the Gargon soldiers to retreat. As the battle ended and the last of the Gargon forces fled into the wilderness, Harper turned to his allies, panting heavily. "We did it," he breathed, a mix of disbelief and triumph flooding through him. Elia, her eyes shining with pride, clapped him on the shoulder. "We did it together, Sergeant." Myra rushed over, her face flushed with excitement. "I can't believe we fought them off. I never imagined I'd be in the middle of a battle like that." Elia stepped forward, her expression serious but grateful. "You've proven yourself to us, Harper. We owe you our lives." Harper smiled, the bond they had forged in battle stronger than ever. "We owe it to each other. We're a team now." As the Union ship prepared to leave, Harper took a moment to reflect on everything that had happened. They had faced unimaginable odds and come out victorious, not just as allies but as friends. Together, they boarded the ship, ready to leave the war-torn planet behind. As the ship lifted off, Harper looked out at the receding landscape, a sense of hope blossoming within him. The journey wasn't over, but they had each other, and together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The battlefield was a chaotic scene of struggle and desperation. For a moment, it seemed as if Elia might be overwhelmed. Tython's strength was immense, each of his blows forcing Elia to give ground. But Elia was faster, her movements a blur as she dodged and countered, looking for an opening. Then she found it. In a single fluid motion, Elia feinted to the left, drawing Tython's guard aside, and then drove her blade straight into his side. The energy blade pierced through his armor, delivering a fatal blow. Tython's roar turned into a gurgle as he staggered, his eyes wide with shock. Elia withdrew her blade and, with a final powerful strike, decapitated the Gargon warlord. Tython's massive body collapsed to the ground, his severed head rolling to a stop at Elia's feet. For a brief moment, the battlefield fell silent. The Gargon soldiers, witnessing the death of their leader, hesitated. Without Tython to guide them, they were lost, their coordination shattered. Harper seized the opportunity. Now push forward. With renewed energy, Harper, Elia, and Myra pressed the attack. The remaining Gargon forces, demoralized and disoriented, were no match for the combined might of the human and Zynthian warriors. One by one, They fell until the clearing was silent once more. As the last of the Gargon soldiers were defeated, Harper allowed himself a moment to breathe. They had done it. They had survived. But the cost had been high. The battlefield was littered with the bodies of the fallen. The once beautiful clearing, now a scene of devastation. Elia returned to the group, her expression grim, but victorious. "It's done," she said simply, wiping the blood from her blade. Harper nodded, his respect for her growing even more. "You did it, Elia. You saved us all." Leah stepped forward, placing a hand on Elia's shoulder. "We all did this together. Without each other, none of us would have made it." Myra, exhausted but relieved, looked up at the sky. In the distance, the faint hum of engines could be heard. The Galactic Union ship, finally freed from whatever had delayed it, was approaching. "We're getting out of here," Harper said, a wave of relief washing over him as the ship descended into the clearing. Harper, Leah, Myra, and Elia gathered together, their bond stronger than ever. They had faced death and emerged victorious, not just as allies, but as friends who had learned to trust and rely on one another. The hatch of the ship opened, and a team of medics and soldiers rushed out to greet them. But as Harper and the Zynthians boarded the ship, they knew that their journey wasn't over. The battle for Zena had been won, but the war was far from finished. As the ship lifted off, leaving the war-torn clearing behind, Harper looked at the three women beside him. They had started this journey as strangers, but now they were something more, a team forged in the fires of battle. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The final stand had tested their limits, but it had also shown them what they were capable of. United by trust, respect, and a shared determination, they were ready for the next phase of their journey. The Galactic Union ship cruised through the star-studded void of space, leaving the battle-scarred planet of Zena behind. The hum of the engines was a soothing background noise as Sergeant Jack Harper, Leah, Myra, and Elia sat together in the ship's briefing room. The room was quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos they had endured just hours before. Harper's wounds had been tended to by the ship's medics, and though he was still sore and exhausted, his mind was sharp. The adrenaline that had carried him through the battle was fading, replaced by a profound sense of relief and a quiet satisfaction. They had survived. They had won. But as he looked around at the Zynthian women, Harper knew that their victory was only the beginning. The battle on Zena had changed everything, not just for the planet, but for the entire galaxy. The Zynthians were no longer isolated, and the Galactic Union had gained new allies. Powerful ones who could change the course of the war against the Gargon Empire. Leah, ever the leader, broke the silence. "Sergeant Harper," she began, her voice calm, but filled with the weight of their experiences. "We owe you our lives. Without you, we would have never made it out of Zena. But this alliance, this bond we forged, it's something we must build upon." Harper nodded, understanding the significance of her words. "I didn't do it alone. We all fought together, and we all made it through. But you're right, this can't just end here. The Gargon threat is still out there, and we need to stand united if we're going to defeat them." Myra, who had been quieter since they left the planet, looked up with a thoughtful expression. The Gargon Empire is a formidable enemy, but their strength lies in their ability to divide and conquer. We've seen what they can do when we're isolated, but if we combine our resources, our knowledge, and our strengths, we can stand against them. Elia, the warrior who had struck down General Tython, spoke with the same determination that had carried her through the battle. "Our people have much to learn from each other. We Zynthians may have advanced technology, but we've seen what human courage and tactics can achieve. Together, we're stronger." Harper felt a sense of pride swell within him. These women who had once viewed him with suspicion had come to trust him, not just as a soldier, but as a leader and a friend. The alliance they were discussing was more than just a strategic partnership. It was a beginning of something much greater. Leah stood, her regal presence commanding attention. "Sergeant Harper, I propose that we take this alliance to the Galactic Union Council. Zena will formally join the Union, and we will pledge our resources our technology, and our people to the fight against the Gargon Empire. Harper nodded, standing as well. I'll stand with you. The Union needs to hear this, and they need to understand what we're up against. Together, we can turn the tide of this war. As they spoke, the ship's captain entered the room, saluting the group. Sergeant Harper, Counselor Elia, we're approaching Union headquarters. The Council has been informed of your arrival and is preparing to hear your report. Elia acknowledged the captain with a nod. Thank you, Captain. Please inform the Council that we will be arriving shortly. As the captain left, Harper turned back to the Zynthians. This is it. We fought the battle. But now we need to win the war of politics. The Council can be challenging. They'll need to be convinced that this alliance is not just necessary but vital. Myra, ever the strategist, smiled slightly. They will listen. They have to. We've proven what can be accomplished when we stand together. Elia, always direct, added, and if they don't, we make them understand. Harper chuckled, appreciating her fiery spirit. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. As the ship prepared to dock at the massive space station that served as the Galactic Union's headquarters, Harper and the Zynthians took a moment to gather their thoughts. The station was a marvel of engineering, a sprawling structure that housed representatives from countless species across the galaxy. It was here that the fate of entire worlds was decided, and it was here that their alliance would be put to the test. They exited the ship and were greeted by a contingent of Union soldiers and officials who escorted them through the bustling corridors of the station to the Grand Council chamber. The chamber was a vast circular room with representatives from every member species seated in a tiered arrangement around a central podium. The air was thick with anticipation as news of the battle on Zena had already begun to spread. As Harper and the Zynthians stepped into the chamber, all eyes turned to them. Elia, as the leader of the Zynthian delegation, took her place at the podium with Harper, Myra, and Elia standing by her side. The head of the council, a venerable Sand named Counselor Tython, addressed them. Counselor Elia, Sergeant Harper, you have been called here to report on the events of Zena. We have received fragmented reports of a great battle, but we need to hear the full story, and more importantly, what it means for the future of this war. Elia stepped forward, her voice clear and resonant as she recounted the invasion of Zena, the destruction wrought by the Gargon Empire, and the desperate battle that had culminated in the defeat of General Tython. She spoke of Harper's bravery, of the alliance they had formed in the heat of battle, and of the potential that alliance held for the future of the galaxy. As she spoke, the council members listened intently, their expressions ranging from concern to admiration. When Elia finished, she looked directly at Counselor Tython. Zena stands ready to join the Galactic Union, to offer our resources and our technology to the fight against the Gargon Empire. But more than that, we offer our commitment to stand together, united against this common threat. Counselor Tython nodded thoughtfully, then turned to Harper. Sergeant Harper, you were in the thick of this battle. What do you believe this alliance can achieve, and what do you recommend the Union do in response? Harper, feeling the weight of the moment, stepped forward. Counselor, the battle on Zena was just one skirmish in a much larger war. The Gargon are powerful, but they are not invincible. What we proved on Zena is that when we work together, we can defeat them. This alliance between humans and Zynthians isn't just about survival. It's about winning. I recommend that we not only accept Zena into the Union, but that we also commit to a full-scale joint operation to push the Gargon back. We have the strength, the technology, and the will. All we need is a unity to see it through. The chamber was silent for a moment as the counselors absorbed his words. Then, one by one, they began to murmur in agreement. Counselor Tython finally spoke, his voice firm. The council will deliberate on this matter, but I believe I speak for many when I say that this alliance represents a turning point. The bravery and cooperation shown by Sergeant Harper and the Zynthians are exactly what we need in this dark time. We will move forward together. As the council began its deliberations, Harper and the Zynthians were led to a waiting room nearby. The tension that had gripped them earlier was beginning to ease, replaced by a sense of accomplishment. Elia leaned back in her chair, a rare smile on her face. "I think that went well." Myra nodded, looking relieved. "If the Council agrees, this could change everything. Zena has the resources, the technology, and now the allies to make a real difference." Leah looked at Harper, her expression one of deep respect. "You've been a part of this from the beginning, Harper. Whatever happens next, know that you've earned the trust and gratitude of my people." Harper smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "I'm just glad we made it through. But this is just the beginning. There's still a lot of work to do.